dkdynamite for a special video here for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about some unreleased Year 2 DLC for Cold War Zombies, a possible hint for the future, and even a must-read thread about the potential Cold War Zombies sequel. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, drop a like, and make sure you have notifications on to stay up to date with everything going on in Cold War Year 2, Modern Warfare 2, Warzone, and any other future Call of Duty as well. Also want to thank you guys very much for 79,000 beautiful subscribers. We actually hit it live last night while live streaming. Bit of a gameplay event that I did with open lobbies, dropped a nuke. We were opening up our new GFUEL Crater package. Shout out to GFUEL for sending all of these new flavors to me as of yesterday. Had a ton of fun trying out some flavors, getting cracked, and also answering a lot of your questions over in chat. But don't forget, you could also use code DYNAMITE to save 10% off any GFUEL order on the site, and twice a month my code gets boosted to 30%. So always take advantage of that while you guys can. I'll keep you guys posted whenever my code does get boosted for you guys in the community. But I definitely have more gameplay streams planned, a special video coming out tomorrow, and I do want to finish some of my zombie seasonal challenges probably in my next stream, which could be on Sunday or at some point next week. But we did go ahead and get a nice chunk done out the way for my unfinished multiplayer seasonal challenges as of yesterday. But first and definitely foremost, we got to report today that Camo challenges have been made easier over in Vanguard multiplayer, but there was no change made to the camos over in zombies. So for those out there that were a bit frustrated with how tedious the Dark Aether unlock is over in zombies, unfortunately no changes were added to that just yet. That grind is still the same, but they made some reasonable changes to the atomic grind for MP. In case you guys out there still care about Vanguard or haven't unlocked some camos yet but still want to, the past few patches for Vanguard haven't had anything to do with zombies, so I'm assuming if there is a big change coming or a big content drop for Vanguard zombies, maybe that'll be at the start of Season 3. However, I wouldn't hold my breath on that one, and maybe we're gonna get one final zombies update in the near future for Vanguard, whether it's Season 3, Season 3 Reloaded, or another future season, because right now we still have that rumor that Vanguard will be getting cut short after Season 5, so it's a bit unclear. But I just figured I'd cover the Vanguard updates in the case you guys still do care about that game. There still are a few people that are playing it, but you know, a majority of us probably are not. Now, also when it comes to Onslaught here in Cold War Zombies, so before we get into what's going on in the background footage, first off, the Holiday Onslaught playlist, to my surprise, is still available, and clearly it wasn't a mistake that they added this back in, because they probably would have taken it out by now. But as of today, the Holiday Onslaught LTM has been in the game since it first got added back last month, longer than it was live when it was officially released for Christmas during Cold War's life cycle. So at this point, I mean, why not keep it in the game permanently? For those out there on Xbox and PC that never got to experience Holiday Onslaught back when it first launched for PlayStation only last year. So there's the thing with that. It's also an opportunity to get the blueprint that you may not have gotten a chance to unlock last year when Holiday Onslaught released. But I feel like this being in the game right now, Cold War Zombies, that's almost a hint that they'll also give Xbox and PC an opportunity to unlock the blueprints that they also just wouldn't have been able to unlock with the LTMs that got rotated in and out last year every other season or so, right? And we already have a rumor from, I think it was Sebas or some other data miner, that a lot of the audio and announcer quotes from the Onslaught LTMs were added back into the game as of recently. So maybe in the next couple of weeks when Season 3 releases, they end up adding in an older Onslaught LTM that replaces Holiday Onslaught, giving you the opportunity to unlock the blueprint that was tied to that mode, and then rinse and repeat. Next season, they can add another LTM in that was out last year and replace the last one. Maybe that's how they'll rotate LTMs in and out, unless they just do a big Moshpit playlist with all of the modes that I think are worth a try at least once. I mean, I know there was a couple of them that were only in the game for a very short amount of time, maybe because of the player count being low on some of them, but I think it would be fair for PC and Xbox to get their hands on some of those free blueprints that they just wouldn't have been able to unlock last year. But now when it comes to the America Onslaught gameplay, essentially Forsaken in the daytime, this is one of the 11-ish unreleased Onslaught maps in multiplayer. There's plenty of glitches going around to allow people to get into lobbies for this type of gameplay. I'm not a glitch channel, so I wouldn't be able to explain it for you clearly here in this video, but I'm assuming the method to get this done will end up being public, and there'll probably be guides for all of that posted over the next couple of weeks. That's typically what happens with the zombie side of the community. But when it comes to America Onslaught, I mean, like I said before, Onslaught clearly works on every multiplayer map, and maybe that's just the way that Onslaught was designed, the way that it was coded. It just automatically works for all maps with the way the orb moves around. But this is Onslaught containment, allowing you to actually explore the entire map and not have to worry about the orb moving from spot to spot. To my understanding, regular Onslaught also works on all unreleased maps where the orb moves from location to location, but Onslaught containment also does work very well, and I think that's great because the thing is, like I mentioned even last year, there's really no reason why they can't just add in Onslaught support for all multiplayer maps, but maybe, and just maybe, to make Xbox and PC feel better about Onslaught not being available last year, they'll end up adding in more Onslaught maps during year 2 to also make it fair to where all platforms get a new experience at the very same time. Now, you'll definitely be seeing more background gameplay of unreleased maps at some point in future videos, whether it's Hijack, whether it's Zoo, whether it's Miami Strike, and again, all the maps play very well. I mean, some maps are better than others when it comes to camping spots and mantling positions, and Onslaught is Onslaught, I get it. It's not a true round-based map, but it's still extra zombies content for those out there that need something new to play or enjoyed Onslaught as it is and want to see it playable on other good maps that also play very well in Cold War multiplayer. But here's a reason why we may not have gotten new maps added to Onslaught and may never see some of these maps that already work with the mode. I think it could come down to the intel system. As you guys know, on every Onslaught experience, there are 3 pieces of exclusive intel that you can pick up that further the Dark Aether storyline. But I would say for most of the Onslaught maps, the intel isn't always necessarily tied to the multiplayer map you're playing on. I know for maps like Nuketown and I think Miami, that was the case where the intel did tie into the location you were playing on, but maybe there just isn't any intel left, and we know there isn't. Maybe there isn't anything they can really add as a placeholder for intel on some of these other multiplayer maps. I know you guys are probably thinking, right, who cares, just add the map in for fun gameplay, but maybe to just fit the consistency of how the Onslaught mode works in Cold War, they want to make sure that every map they release for it has 3 pieces of intel. And I had a theory. I mean, maybe if future Vanguard Zombies content gets canceled, they could just throw whatever intel they had planned for future experiences into Onslaught and Cold War that you can just unlock on some of these unreleased maps. Maybe that's what they could do, even though it wouldn't really fit too well to add in, you know, prequel Vanguard Zombies storyline intel on Onslaught maps here in multiplayer for Cold War. I know that would sound a bit weird, but that's an idea I have. Unless they just release these other maps just without intel altogether. Let me know what you think about that down below in the comments. But here's the thing, I do think it's cool that Onslaught also played a role in the Dark Aether storyline, and so did Outbreak, obviously. I mean, that mode had full-on main quest, and maybe if they bring back Onslaught in the next Black Ops game, it could also have maybe a cross-map Easter egg of sorts that is more than just picking up pieces of intel after killing elites, because I like the fact that these LTMs, these extra game modes for zombies, just explore other elements of the Dark Aether storyline, other sides of the world, showing and depicting the zombies outbreak in locations that we wouldn't see in round-based maps. I love the idea of that, and it's like I've been saying for years, right? Der Schatten being added to Black Ops 4 multiplayer, which is the town below Der Eisendrache, that immediately, I think, sparked some heavy interest in the community to just allow us to play some simple survival zombies gameplay on MP maps, and that's been talked about for years. I mean, go back to even Black Ops 2, lots of people out there were talking about, oh, what if you could play zombies on Hijack, or this map and that map, and yeah, there's a lot of MP maps where it just would work very well, and the zombie spawns would flow well, you could see higher on gameplay happening in certain camping spots. That's been a discussion for years, and finally Onslaught made that a reality. Now, if you guys are into glitching and figuring out stacking methods, I mean, there's lots of videos on YouTube already showing people how to get bots, how to play in third person, even going as far as to play unreleased Outbreak maps. Talked about this before as well. People found a way to play Outbreak on Miami and also Crossroads, but the weird thing about that is that unlike Onslaught, it does seem like some work would have to go into making Outbreak playable on other regions. And especially for a map like Crossroads, right, there's already images out there in clear HD of Wonderfizz, Pack-a-Punch, objectives being played. It's like, typically that would have to be tested and coded and all that, right? It wouldn't just be a simple, you know, 15 minutes worth of work like Onslaught is to just make sure an orb goes from spot to spot or to make sure elite spawn in correctly. And that already works flawlessly on all multiplayer maps. So for Outbreak, I'm very confused as to how that works and was bug-free according to people out there that actually played that. Maybe that was definitely planned at one point to be added as a region, but got scrapped at the last minute. But again, if that content's done, then the more the merrier. Just add that in at some point. But then at the same time, they have to go ahead and make sure they add in like the monkey spawns, the projector reels, and all the content to allow you to do main quest 1 and 2 if you choose to do that over in that Outbreak region. Now, I do plan on getting Eric Maynard and Caljitsu back on the podcast at some point soon. Earlier this morning, Eric put out a fantastic thread talking about what he thinks the future of zombies may hold in terms of story, in terms of gameplay, and he didn't have time to make a video on this, but I wanted to really put this out there in tonight's video so you guys can see. And he thinks, in his opinion, Vanguard's story holds a major key to where we go next after Cold War. A quick note before we really deep dive, this all rides on the belief the Samuel theories we've been kicking around the lore chat are true. Samuel, the burned child, was the son of Eddie, the director, and instead of simply dying, Eddie Eddie placed them in the rabbit as an artifact. I think this is where Vanguard comes in. The story serves twofold: introduce the old gods so that post-Forsaken we can have some of them return, and to show us how to separate someone from an artifact, because I think that's Eddie's long game. In my opinion, it's pretty obvious from what they say about Requiem archives that Eddie had all of this Vanguard era stuff already in his possession, which likely means he had the Tome of Rituals as well. And we know from tag dialogue that rabbits represent a way out to Richtofen. So basically, once we learn the way to separate something from its artifact, we will see Eddie begin to use his plans with Project Janus and the Corporation to give himself access to the Dark Aether safely to free Samuel. I believe Samuel is what I would call a reverse artifact, which is in essence the opposite of the artifacts in Vanguard. Rather than someone inside an artifact who escaped the Dark Aether and get access to the real world, it's someone from the real world hidden away in an artifact inside the Dark Aether to protect them. Way I see it is, if Eddie did this, he did it because he 100% has intentions to save Samuel from this artifact in the future. This would tie Eddie's current and future motivations directly into the lives of Weaver and Sam, and would make sense as to why that incident was discussed in lots of intel, by the way, across Onslaught, round-based maps. To wrap up, I think Eddie is playing the Corporation and the US government all in an attempt to get revenge on Weaver and Sam for the death of his family. Sam gave Weaver the intel and also save his son. I expect Vanguard Zombies to end with the death of Cortifix and artifact separation. Oh, also Dark Aether X-Men mutant psychic powers. They seeded that a lot in Forsaken, and I think Sam's powers are just the tip of the iceberg, meaning that other people out there in the world would gain Dark Aether powers like Sam, creating mutant-like individuals, which could make for a really interesting storyline plot in the next Zombies iteration. So that's probably a lot to take in case you guys out there aren't familiar with the Cold War Zombie story, but I'll leave a full-fledged actual roundup of the entire Dark Aether story down below in the description for those out there that need a bit of a recap on exactly what happened throughout Cold War and just how deep the lore really goes. There's a lot to play around with, which Vanguard also follows up on. Even though it's a prequel, it kind of expands on the lore and the world building, which I definitely appreciate. I just think from a gameplay standpoint, Vanguard Zombies just isn't it, but the storyline is still as rich as ever with how they're going to exactly expand the story so that we can really be in a really interesting spot once the sequel ends up releasing in a couple years. Now, I also want to point out that considering all the hot news about the Microsoft acquisition and how PlayStation exclusivity is seemingly coming to an end for Call of Duty in terms of those extra DLC bonuses and whatnot, I wonder how Onslaught would work if it does return in the next Black Ops, if they bring it back, which I think they will, because the player count has been pretty hot on it according to Activision investors' calls, according to recent data that was posted in the community. I think it would just end up being a mode that is available for all platforms on day one, which is fantastic. I think more people out there would have warmed up to the idea of Onslaught if it wasn't PlayStation exclusive, but the fact that it was had people out there already with a sour taste in their mouth about the mode itself, which to me doesn't do the mode justice because there's a lot to actually do in Onslaught. If you guys just care about basic survival, camo grinding, getting extra intel, getting all the gold chalices on the map, there's also achievements for the mode itself on PlayStation and I think other platforms as well now. So I think people out there will definitely come to appreciate the idea of being able to play zombies on multiplayer maps if it just isn't locked behind any exclusivity. But if there was any mode that had to be locked behind exclusivity in Cold War, Onslaught I think was the best choice. Not Outbreak, not Dead Ops Arcade, not any other round-based maps. I think it was the best mode to go with that I think pleased Sony and made sure the deal would continue throughout Cold War's life cycle. There's also a new pic going around of Ravenov and his icon for Warzone, so I'm unsure if this is a brand new icon that just got added with the recent patch, or if this was already sitting there for a while, but the fact that that's popping up in Warzone just has me thinking that that bundle, which is heavily zombies focused, is somewhere around the corner and isn't too far away from release. We know the current rumor about April 15th for the Hudson bundle is probably legit, which is next Friday, but Ravenov I would assume is going to release very early in Season 3, which doesn't begin that far away from now. It's like, what, April 26th? So hopefully sooner than later, but I know for zombies fans out there that want something new, that Ravenov bundle could actually allow for a decent amount of content to play around with once that does finally release. I'll keep you guys posted with whatever is happening with all the Year 2 bundles, cosmetics, extra operators, the works. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on these unreleased Onslaught experiences for Cold War Zombies Year 2? How are you feeling about what could be the future of zombies as we know it, thanks to a nice thread from Eric? And also, what are you thinking about the new Ravenov picture popping up for Warzone? Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.